Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist Noah Bergren here. It is just after 3 o'clock. We've got a lot of weather to talk about, but first, I want to get you to the current radar. So we've got the recap of last night's extreme flash flooding. We've got Melissa, but we have more storms coming in for today. So first out there right now, we have no storms across central Florida. In fact, things are just a couple of showers here by the villages. In Leesburg, these are tracking to the east. A couple of showers by the theme park, these are pushing east. Then a little shower here in eastern Seminole County that's also pushing to the east. But my concern right now is with this line of storms out in the Gulf. This is a big line of storms right here. This is with a monster cold front. And this is going to produce severe storms in central Florida this afternoon and evening in these areas. So places that got hit last night are going to get hit again. Now these are a lot different than last night. Last night was a flood threat. These are a severe threat. Maybe a brief tornado or some damaging wind gusts. And these are tracking to the east for the evening tonight. So we're going to watch these storms as we go forward for the next little while. So the speed of these storms, hello everybody. We're going to talk about severe storms for tonight, a recap of last night's flooding, and then Major Hurricane Melissa. It's a very, 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 very busy day in the weather office. Okay, so first and foremost, we have a special weather statement here for Levy County, and that special weather statement goes until 3:30 p.m. Now, this line of storms may produce damaging wind gusts and a brief tornado through the evening tonight. Now, let me pull up the details of this special weather statement. This comes to us from our friends in Tampa. So it's moving east. They've got it at 25. Okay, I just wanted to confirm how fast. Okay, so this whole line of storms is moving east at 25 miles an hour. And I do think that we're going to have a few warnings out of this for tonight. So let's go ahead and track this. I'll put a query here on it. Something like that. And I'm going to bring this all the way out here. Now, give me 1 second because this is not moving at that pace. I don't know why this is like that. Give me 1 second. And let me make this. Let's do. Let me find Orlando. Give me 1 second. Hello, everybody. Facebook, YouTube, Fox Local. Hello. Give me 1 second here. Let's do this. We'll do First City. We'll do Magic Kingdom. Here we go. All right, so the arrival time of these strong to severe storms. Speed is not 163 miles an hour. It's 25. Okay, so there we go. So this is the arrival time of these storms. So about Magic Kingdom, 7:40. Fox 35, around 7:30. Evans High School, 7:48. Let me go back a little further. We'll say Lake Harris, 6:39. That would be the Eustis Mount Dora area, about 6:30. Come back a little bit further. Lake George, you see that there? Let me make these a little smaller. There you go. So Dunellen, about 4:20. Reddick, Ocala, about 4:15. So a little over an hour from now, could be some severe storms, damaging winds, or a brief tornado in Ocala. Go out a little further here. We'll do. Let's make this the bottom here. I'm trying to include as many towns on here. It's kind of, I have to do this all by hand. Make this, there we go. So notice by the time this gets to the Space Coast, it's going to be like after 9 o'clock. So in terms of this line of storms, we're talking about this line of about 4, this line of about 5, this line of about 6, right here about 7, and then over here by 8 p.m. And again, these storms are all pushing to the east. So hopefully that helps you plan. So again, I'll have to put the towns on. Orlando, maybe about 6-ish line of storms. Now let me take you in here and show you what's going on, because we do have some spin in here. Can't see much of it there by Chiefland, but there is some pretty big spin out over the water. Now this is the Tampa, Melbourne radar. Let me switch it back. Here you go. Here we go. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah, so what we've been watching is there's some areas of spin in these storms. Can't see it much. I'm just flipping through the radars to look. Okay, let me stop switching it. So There's been a little bit of spin right in here, a little bit of spin right in here, a little bit of spin here. And again, as these areas come east over the next several hours, could produce a damaging wind gust, a severe thunderstorm, and or a brief tornado warning or two. Now, obviously, this is going to be a big impact because of the rain. So let's go back to last night now. So that's the idea for the night tonight. So here was the rain over the past 24 hours. Let me put this back with a banner. All right, so here's the rain. Now let's pivot and switch gears. If you have a question, comment, or concern, please put it on Facebook, YouTube, Fox Local. I'd love to hear from you. Hello, Chris. Eustis again? Yes, Chris, it's going to rain again in Eustis, but only for like maybe an hour. So it's not going to flood like last night, Chris, but it will again tonight definitely rain hard. And doesn't take much after it rained 15 inches to produce more flash flooding. So that's definitely a concern there. Pull up some of your comments here. Keep the comments coming on Facebook, YouTube, Fox Local. Hello. Yes, Eustis was flooded, Courtney. Appreciate that. Let's see. Get the sandbags out, Dolores. Thank you. Be safe, everybody. Hello. Thank you, Yasmin. Hello. Get the sandbags out, Dolores, for sure. Kissimmee, Nicole, probably about 6:30 to 7 for the arrival time of that. So here was the rain from yesterday. And notice in the Mount Dora area, 14 and a half inches of rain here. 13. So look at the rain totals here. This is significant. Right over Britt Road, 14, 11. We'd have to go back a little bit further. Yeah, you get the idea. It's about 15 inches of rain fell yesterday in the Eustis area. Come back over here towards the Space Coast. Let me turn off the stenciling. Right in the center of Titusville. I'll query some of these places. By Astronaut High School, about 10 and a half. Grange, about 11. The center of Titusville, about a foot, 13 inches. By Whispering Hills Golf Estates, 12. Right over by South Street, South Singleton Ave, about 10.6. Going out over the bridge, about 9. So you get the idea. This was a historic single-day rain event. And the totals were highest over on the other side of the Indian River with 13, 14 inches of rain by the Kennedy Space Center complex. But, case in point, you go to places like, let's say, Bithlo or Kissimmee or Altamont Springs, and it barely rained much. And then you've got these two huge bullseyes of what were just massive amounts of rain from last night into today, which sadly, again, did produce some really, really catastrophic flooding across Florida. And here were some of the videos from that from last night. Let me pull this up here so you can see. This was from Harry in Central Merritt Island from Sunday night, which clearly was a huge issue. Very impressive for just thunderstorms. Now, there's a reason why this was not a shock. This was not a shock, and I'll tell you why. Couple of things. First, I was looking at the models when I was having breakfast on Sunday, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't bother to text anybody or call. We were all looking at this. TJ was looking at it. There were a few models that started printing out like the NAM and the HER Sunday morning of like a foot of rain, and it just didn't look feasible. It didn't look realistic. But there were some breadcrumbs that started being laid in the forecast data on Sunday morning, and the unlikely scenario ended up happening where there was a front draped across the state, strong east winds aloft thanks to Hurricane Melissa, and it just created the perfect storm, if you will, for training slow-moving convection. This was the view from, let me pull this one up. This was from Merritt Island. This one was also from Merritt Island. This one's from Leo by Coral Street last night. And obviously, this is some serious flooding. I mean, we're talking about big time flooding here from last night. And that was not the only area that got hit. Now, last night we learned the difference between a flash flood warning and an emergency. Emergencies are rarely issued from the Weather Service. They pose a catastrophic threat to life and property. And we've only seen now 2 of them ever in Central Florida, which, again, goes without saying, is really, really rare. And hopefully we don't see again another one anytime soon. So, in terms of this evening, let me show you the Futurecast. I'm going to bring it on here back, because I know we've got a lot of concerns about more storms today. So let me queue up the Futurecast there. Give this a hot second. This is going to be out of date. Yeah, this is not right. Give me 1 second. It's going to be a busy day in the office. All right, so here we go. Here we go. Let's see. Do this 24 hours. All right, so here we go. Here's the Futurecast. Yeah, I don't like how this is. Okay, so here's the Futurecast, and I'll show you. Here's the line of storms, right here. Now, here's the current radar. Here's the current radar. And notice what it looks like. There's a big line of storms out here over the Gulf that's going to come across the state. But our model has that. You see that right here? Has that. But look what it does out ahead of the storms. Is it weakens the line. It weakens this line here and blows up big new convection about 5 o'clock over Orlando, the Space Coast. This is where the big rain and potential storms and flooding would be this evening, is in here, not up by Eustis, Mount Dora. So we'll see. I kind of think that the front is going to hold together a little bit better than that. You see through 7:30, even still through 9, and then it's done by 10. But let's take a look at some of the rain that this model projects. I'll cue this up here for you. So here's the rain total. Now notice it's much tamer than we had last night, but there's places, this is rain that's to come today. There's places that could be 6 inches of rain. There's these pockets of 4 to 6 inches of rain from tonight, this afternoon into tonight. So that's the current run of the model. Let's go back one run here. We'll go to the 16Z run. You see it had the bullseye over Orlando. 15Z, the previous run before that, and then we don't have that one, and we don't have that one. Nice. Yeah, so the idea is, the good news for Eustis and Umatilla and Mount Dora is it looks like there's some hope, at least in the models, that the rain that front may fall apart, and any storms that reform are out ahead of the actual area that got slammed last night, area being Mount Dora. So here's one more view of the Futurecast. And you see through 5 o'clock. Here's the front that's out there now. The models try to fall apart and reform new storms here. I don't know how I feel about that. I think this front's going to hold a little more steam, but we'll see. So either way, there's going to be storms that move west to east through the evening tonight. It's just a matter of, again, is it this front, or do we get new storms that form out ahead of it, like the model shows? But they'll be gone. Could produce some localized flash flooding. They'd be gone by 9 o'clock, and then we're done for tonight. All right, so what kind of flood was this in the Eustis area? Mickey, that's a good question. I would have to look that up to confirm. I'm going to guess that it was closer to a 1 in a 500-year event. Now, that doesn't mean it happens every once in 500 years. It means that the probability of that happening is 1 divided by 500, or 2%. That's the way to interpret that, because often in the news and national media, they get a hold of those things from meteorologists and scientists, and it gets put out to the public in a very misleading manner. So a 1 in 500-year flood, for instance, means that there's a 2% chance of that happening in any given year, not that it happens literally once in 500 years. Near Millennium Mall, Christine, yes, you'll get it about 6 to 7 some more storms there tonight. April, whole summer I lived by the airport. Not as bad as last night, April. Not as bad as last night. Keep the comments, questions, and concerns coming. All right, so there's the storms from last night, and a recap of last night's flooding. Let's switch gears now and get into Melissa, which is our other big story out there right now. So here is the latest satellite presentation, of which, I don't know why the image is going out there. But here's the latest on Melissa. So as of the 2 o'clock advisory, intermediate advisory, it has pressure of 906 millibars. It's moving west-northwest at 3. It has sustained winds of a just insane 175 mile an hour. It is moving to, again, the northwest. Now, what has changed today, other than the extreme intensity, let me turn this to the visible satellite. me get this to the visible satellite. Here we go. Yeah, just look at this. This thing is a beast of a hurricane. So here it is. Now, if you look close, and I'll trace this back, you can see that the storm, as in the last few frames, started to take a little bit of a turn to the northeast, like that. And notice I'll loop the satellite. You can see it was moving west, and then here we go, making that turn into Jamaica. Because there were a lot of people I've been reading saying online and on TikTok, you know, really credible area for science and, you know, any medicine and fields on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. I'm joking. I'm saying I've seen some viral posts that have gone around, people saying from the last few days, oh, look, it's going west. The weather people are wrong. It's not hitting Jamaica. Well, the forecast has been very solid. The forecast has been consistent that this is going to turn to the northeast and then come into Jamaica, something like this, probably tomorrow morning, somewhere on this part of the coast. Now, the saving grace for Kingston is going to be that the worst of the weather, remember, is in the what's called the eye wall. You know, this is the eye. It's in the areas around the eye, which goes all the way around. I just drew a little piece of it there, but so here's the eye where it's calm, and then the area around it, that's where the worst weather is. And if you just extrapolate this out like this, the capital city of Jamaica being over here, probably, if you know, they're going to get slammed, but they're not going to get the devastating, catastrophic hit that, let's say, Treasure Beach would, Montego Bay, which is up here, and then there's a lot of rural but pretty populated small towns in here, and then several pretty popular vacation spots for Americans and international tourists that I've researched for honeymoons and stuff. Treasure Beach is one on the south side of the island. Let's see if it pulls up. Black River is a town that could take the landfall. There's a couple of really scenic beaches and beach communities here. That's probably where the eye is going to come in tomorrow. And it's those areas that are just going to be like, I don't know. I mean, they may be permanently changed. There will probably be communities that permanently are wiped off the map, meaning there'll be so much rain and devastation and mudslides that you won't. It's not a matter of rebuilding or not. There will be parts of the island in Jamaica that are permanently changed or even permanently uninhabitable, where the core comes in from Melissa. Because, again, if let's just say the core comes in like this, you know, you're going to have 200-mile-an-hour gusts on the east side, and then 170 plus on the back side. Followed by 40 inches of rain and mudslides coming down these higher elevations. There's going to be uninhabitable parts of the island for many, 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 many years after this. Now, if this was going into Kingston, this would be just total humanitarian disaster with how many people there are there. Still, likely, sadly, is going to be for western and central Jamaica. But again, the core going over here is going to save the capital city of Jamaica being over there. They're still going to get hit really hard. But you can see this thing tonight starting to take that turn to the north. A couple other things to point out. Very symmetric storm. If you divide this into quadrants, very symmetric storm out there. Ouch from Coco, thank you for, let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. William says you were very young. Well, I'll take that, tell that to my back. Do you like the weather for Halloween and the end of the month? Now that I moved to Florida, I'm a little bit of a softie. I do like the warm weather, William, but a little bit cold for me, being in Florida. All right, so there's the storm, and notice how symmetrical it is in all four quadrants of the storm. There's an equal coverage of clouds, and there's a little bit more weighted off on the side over here than there is over here, but that's not really impacting the storm. Now, let me look at the water vapor imagery, because this is staggering. So the eye of a hurricane is very dry, and this is the driest eye of a hurricane I think we've ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. Now, what happens in the eye is that the air is sinking. In the eye wall, in the eye walls around it, it's rising. And when the air sinks faster and faster, it warms and it dries out. It's the laws of physics. Contrary to the movie The Day After Tomorrow, where helicopters fall out of the sky because the air froze so fast, the laws of physics and the ideal gas law say when air falls in the atmosphere, it warms. And where air rises, it cools and condenses. Now, this area right here is the eye, and look how dry it is. It's completely clear in there right now, and you can see in the water vapor imagery, any dry air to weaken this thing is all the way up here in the upper Gulf, which is well away. You've got a really circular outflow here, circular outflow here. So this thing's going to probably keep strengthening all the way up until the point of landfall later tonight. And there it is on the colorized satellite, which not a lot of words to describe how bad this is going to be, other than it's going to be a humanitarian disaster, especially if it comes in at the Cat 5 intensity that it looks like it's going to. And you can see it's starting to make that turn to the north over the last 2 hours. So in terms of where it's going, let me show you that quick. So here's the latest cone. Now give me a second. I have to clean this up. I'm behind here at work. Let's see. We'll do this. So here's the current. So the Hurricane Center's got this as, by 8 o'clock tonight, winds of, well, this is the 10 a.m. advisory. This is the intensity is going to come up. But 210 mile an hour gusts on the east side of the storm, definitely. Category 5 landfall is expected somewhere on the western side of the island tomorrow morning. Then from there, it goes to basically Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay being right here. And Guantanamo Bay is going to get one of the hardest hurricane strikes. Again, remember the east side is the dirty side. So Guantanamo Bay being right there is going to get slammed from still a major hurricane. Then from there, it goes across Crooked Island in the Bahamas. Crooked Island being right here. This is Crooked Island right here. Here's the core of the Bahamas, Nassau. Here's the Florida Keys, Miami, and the Space Coast, and it continues off to the northeast. And the closest pass that this will make to Florida is probably Wednesday, when the eye will be about 400 miles southeast of Miami Beach. So there'll be some enhancement of the surf into our east coast. Remember, the hurricane rotates like this, but other than maybe some enhanced surf, that's going to be about it in the grand scheme of things. And then from there, keeps racing off to the north. This thing will be well up into the northern Atlantic here by the upcoming weekend. So there's the full track of this. You see turning to the north, getting picked up by the jet stream, and then just racing off to the northeast away from the U.S. East Coast, heading into the upcoming weekend. And a reminder, hurricane season does run through the end of November. So yeah, that's the latest. Let me give you one more check back here of the current radar. So here we go, 325. We're watching this line of storms that's coming in. A couple areas of spin out there, actually, some rotation. A couple areas here, 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 here. Lots of lightning. Some downpours. That's the radar from Melbourne. It's on a range. I'll change it to Tampa. There you go. So we're going to watch this line of storms coming east for the evening. The actual line of storms, here's when it will be in your town. I'll just do a couple hand-drawn places. So let's say the Clermont area about 6:30. I think this might be a little bit slow, but 6:30. Orlando about 7:30. The Ocala area up here about 4:30. And the way it takes all the way to get to the Space Coast, we're talking about almost 9 o'clock for this front to work its way all the way across the state. And again, as it comes across, we'll watch for downpours, lightning, gusty winds, and maybe a few severe storms. So that'll do it for me right now on Fox Local, YouTube, and Facebook. I've got to go get some stuff cooking and ready for the news tonight at 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11. We'll have team coverage. TJ's out in the Thunder Truck, recapping last night's flooding and tracking tonight's impending storms. And I'll have the latest on Melissa and the storms as they come in tonight. 3 coming up at 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11. So have a good rest of your afternoon, everybody. Appreciate that you're watching here on Fox Local, YouTube, and Facebook. Again, we're expecting this line of storms to come in for later tonight, and I will have much more for you on it here on Fox 35. And, of course, anytime there's warnings or alerts, we'll bring them to you live. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you coming up on the TV starting at 5.